Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Andrea Gramatica, amfAR's Director of Research. Today, I'm talking to Dr. Hannah King from the Peter Doherty Institute in Melbourne, Australia, who's just been awarded one of this year's amfAR Krim Fellowships in Biomedical Research. Thanks for joining us today. So, Hannah, can you tell us briefly about the work you'll be doing with the funding from the Krim Fellowship?
Of course. Hi, Andrea, and thank you for this funding. So with this fellowship, I want to look into a particular type of drugs that we're investigating for HIV cure. These drugs are called immune checkpoint blockade, and these are drugs that are currently used for treating cancer. What these drugs do is they reinvigorate the immune system, because when we have chronic diseases, so things like HIV, but also things like cancer, the immune system basically gets exhausted. That's the literal scientific term for it. And it stops responding as well to the cancer or to the virus. So we want to use these drugs that tell the immune system that actually, no, you've got energy now, you can go fight this virus, and try giving these to people with HIV. A lot of people have already been trying to use these drugs in HIV. This isn't a new idea, but one thing that we see is that the effect of these drugs are quite variable. So some people respond really well, and some people don't respond at all. And so I want to do is use samples from people with HIV who've been given these drugs to try and work out the reasons behind this difference. Because we hope that if we can do this, we'll know who we can give these drugs to most effectively, so we could screen people. But also, if we could understand why they only work in some cases, maybe in the future we could design better drugs that would be more broadly efficacious.
Yeah, thank you. That makes sense. That sounds very exciting. Can you say a little more about why we need a cure for HIV?
There are still a number of comorbidities from the virus, so a lot of health issues that people with HIV, even on antiretroviral therapy, still face. In addition to this, there's a lot of stigma around the virus, and so if we are able to cure the virus rather than just treat the virus, we think this would have a big impact on people living with HIV. Additionally, I think only about 75% of people worldwide actually access these drugs, the antiretroviral therapy for HIV. And so obviously, if we had a cure that was widely accessible, hopefully we could reach some of these people who don't currently have access to these medications.
Yeah, absolutely. And can you tell us what made you want to pursue HIV research in the first place? Why were you curious about this virus?
I guess two reasons. One is that it's obviously a big issue worldwide. It affects so many people, and it kind of has, we don't currently have a cure. So that really drew me towards it. But also, I think just scientifically, it's a really interesting virus. And so there was a big part of that was it's kind of a difficult problem to solve. And I like the idea of working on something that might require some creativity or that didn't have an easy answer.
So your mentor is Dr. Sharon Lewin, who's been working a lot with amfAR. Certainly a scientist we're familiar with. So how is mentorship important for you, for your research, specifically your relationship with Sharon, but in general sort of the relationship with your mentors?
I've been really lucky throughout my career to work with a series of really wonderful and supportive mentors, Sharon obviously being one of them. So she has so much experience and so much knowledge, and she's also just a really kind and generous person. Like, she always looks out for people who she is mentoring and has your interests at heart and kind of tries to advance and lift up the careers of all of the people around her. And so I'm really lucky to be able to work with Sharon.
So the Krim Fellowship program is quite unique. Can you tell us what it means to you to receive this funding at this stage in your career?
Yeah, it's really amazing to receive this funding. So I am kind of an early career researcher. I finished my PhD in 2018, and then I went overseas for a postdoc in the US, and then I returned to Australia. And I'm kind of looking towards establishing my own group and my own independence. And so having this program, having this pathway, I think is really going to help me to achieve that next step.
So, resources for funding HIV research are scarcer than ever. Can you share with us, from a researcher's perspective, what makes funding from somewhere like amfAR so important right now?
In the US at the moment, there's been a lot of funding cuts, especially to HIV research. And even some of our funding in Australia that we did receive from the US has been impacted by all of these kind of funding decisions. It's not clear at the moment what's going to happen to that money, but there has been an impact, and there has at least been a pausing of funds that my lab, or the lab I'm in more broadly, is receiving. And so even in places as far away as Australia, we are feeling the impact of this on our research. And so I think it's really great to have, I guess, independent organizations like amfAR that are able to kind of fill some of these gaps and provide funding that isn't tied to the whims of the current government.
Well, thanks so much, Hannah, and congratulations again on your award.
Thanks, Andrea.